All right, welcome in everyone. UGA Football Live with JC Shelton. That is former Georgia tight end and Mr. President Arthur Lynch. Look at him, just dressing up for UGA-Bama. I mean, you look great, buddy.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it. Yeah, hey, big time game. Need a big time outfit. Got the suit going. I know it looks like neutral colors. I know Christian Robinson is my boy, and he's a linebackers coach. These neutral colors are not for that. The neutral colors are just, I had a day at work, had to get my mind right. But we got a big week, big week for the Dogs in Alabama and in college football. I think I'm alone now. Don't know where JC went. He may have lost the show. So if I'm alive, solo, what happened, brother? You're on mute. You're on mute, dude. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. You're killing me, Coach. I'm on here alone. Well, guys, this is a perfect example of what I was talking about not too long ago when he tried blaming all of this nonsense on me of wireless and technological difficulties and all that stuff. No. It's always JC. We frozen. I think the hurricane got him. You all right, dude? You look flustered. You're still on mute. Can't hear you. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Well, if you have joined us, which I hope you have, we got a guest coming on today, a dear friend of mine, one of the, if not the, one of the best quarterbacks to ever suit up for the Dogs. Yeah, we're back.
Grief. My mic is just the storm, guys. Hurricane Helena has just attacked.
Oh, very good. Whatever you got to say.
It's just, it's. I'm flustered, Artie.
Are you gonna blame my Wi-Fi or what?
No, I'm gonna blame whatever StreamYard is doing right now. I'm just gonna blame the company. I think that's the best move from now on. I think we need to get back on track here. Sorry, folks, if you're just joining. I'm dealing with a hurricane here. Okay, it's right outside my window. But yes, all right. Former Georgia tight end Arthur Lynch. We're gonna bring on a friend of the show. It's actually the first show in UJ Football Live history. Okay, SEC's all-time leading passer, quarterback guru. All right, always keeps a fresh fade, but it doesn't look so fresh this time. It is Aaron Murray.
It is not fresh. That is correct. Arthur, come on, bro. When the power goes down and the quarterback gets injured, I need you to step up and put the show on your back and let that thing roll a little bit. Come on. You look too good in the suit and tie not to do it.
Coach, did you not see me solo effort there when JC can't even learn how to turn on the camera?
I was watching it I was watching the whole thing from backstage, just ready for you to take it and turn into the Arthur Lynch show. Just,
I'm the dumbest of the three here, so I should not be hosting any show solo dolo. But that's a perfect.
You're getting an MBA at Cornell.
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm smart. I mean, this is anytime there's a technical difficulty going on, JC's always like, Arthur's Wi-Fi cut out. Arthur's fault. He needs to get a better mic. I get a better mic, blah, blah. What I'm saying here, kids, close your ears. JC's full of shit, okay? It's always on his technical difficulty. But look, big week. Murray, it's always good to see your face. You're the only human being I know that the more kids that you have, the younger you look. Same goes for your wife. You guys look great. I love it. I miss you. But I'm ready to talk some football. So thank you for joining.
Let's go. Come on. Yeah, baby. And I don't know about younger. I shave because I have so much gray in my beard nowadays. So
yeah, well,
we'll all be stressing and aging a ton this weekend come Saturday night when Georgia goes to face Alabama. But hopefully we'll all be celebrating at about 11:30 at night.
Yeah, it's going to be a late one. I mean, that's how look at that Kentucky game didn't stop until 12. I mean, the game got pushed, whatever. because Florida was playing. I'm like, what are we doing here? We got,
Mhm.
Georgia, Kentucky here. But anyway, regardless, Aaron, I'll talk off of that right there. Just kind of planning for a heart-wrenching game, because that's what I'm getting from the fan base all week. And really, we've had 2 weeks to sit on this, right? So it's like the tone from the fan base is worry. I think, honestly, it's based on that Kentucky game, really, because I think there was just so much confidence, because everybody circled this game as Kalen DeBoer's welcome to the SEC moment, right? And all this confidence from Georgia fans. And then, boom, a game at Kentucky, which we've seen before, happens. And now it's kind of changed. And I know you watched that film, so I'd love to ask you about that. And let's focus it on, I guess, Carson Beck in that game. It looked like, in the opportunities he had in the past against zone and such, and he's really torn those apart, he didn't as much. Did you see it that way? What'd you come away with for Carson there against the Wildcats?
Well, it's just funny because Georgia beat the snot out of Clemson, had an incredible second half. Clemson looks really good. Clemson's poised to probably go 11-1 this season. And yet everyone forgets about that. Everyone forgets about just how talented this roster is. And, the reason why they're number one in the country and that Kirby Smart's the head coach. Like, it feels like everyone's now forgotten that. And in one not so great game against Kentucky, and everyone's like, oh, Georgia's just not that good. Or Georgia doesn't have weapons. Georgia doesn't have this. Or like, calm down. It was one game, everyone. And I'm not saying like they're looking ahead or anything like that, but just was not obviously their night a couple weeks ago in Lexington. And, I think it was a full effort. I thought the offensive line was very average. I thought Carson missed throws that he doesn't usually miss. Obviously, the big one to Dylan Bell down the middle of the seam. It was just an off night. We all have those. For Carson, it's very rare. For the offensive line, it's very rare. So to think that we're going to get back-to-back nights, something that I've only seen really happen once for Carson, and maybe like once or twice over the past 5 or 6 years for the offensive line, to think that we're going to get that back-to-back nights in 2 weeks, that ain't going to happen. You're going to get Georgia's best take offensive line, even without Tate playing at right guard. You're going to get the best of Carson Beck. I think the receivers are going to have their best night of the season so far too. So I'm putting that game behind us. I'm not even thinking like that's not Georgia's MO. That's not Georgia's identity. What we saw in the second half versus Clemson against an elite defense, what we saw in the second game of the season, that's what I expect on the road, an aggressive offense, an offense is going to take some shots down the field and hopefully create some big plays.
Yeah. Artie, can you speak on that? Because Arthur brought up something I thought was really interesting earlier in the week, and he was talking about the Georgia receivers, and it's become maybe a more highlighted, I guess you'd call it concern from really the outside media as well, looking at this game in Tuscaloosa and talking about the Georgia receivers, how there is kind of a lull here right now between that period last year, Vlad Conke and Brock Bowers, and the year before Adonai and such. Artie, you mentioned it as gotta have it, guys, and I want you to take that over and just kind of ask Aaron on that, because I think you do a better job than I would of explaining that.
Yeah. So, Aaron, obviously this would be a familiar term to you, and when we were playing and like those like third down 5s, 6s, and 7s, right? And they really, this is how they described it in the NFL. We described it a little bit like this in college, but it's like, okay, like what are our gotta have it plays, right? Here's our gotta have it, right? And 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, right? These are gotta have it's. And I kind of always thought, like, when you have those gotta have it plays, like typically there's like guys on your team that you want to go to, right? You obviously played with a ton of different, technically I played with them as well, but you started for 4 years. Like you had an AJ Green, right? You had a Tavares King, you had a Todd Gurley, right? And you even had like a Washaun Ely for a bit, and Isaiah Crowell, like whatever you think of these folks, these guys were like impact players that really, really like would step up at big time games. Michael Bennett, right? Didn't have the pro career that he probably would have liked, but was always seemed to make really big catches in clutch situations. And I've always referred to those guys as like gotta have it guys, right? The guys that like when you need it the most, or you need a pickup, right? You need a big play, or you need a conversion, right? It's not supposed to be the quarterback, right? It's supposed to be a guy who can make a play if the quarterback puts him in a position to make that play. And, I think we've been very blessed as Georgia fans for the past 3 years to have a guy like Brock Bowers, who was just like this automatic, right? It was like, need a big play, need a touchdown, tight end around, 5-yard out, slant, whatever. And I think the thing that Georgia's missing, and people could point blame to Carson all he wants, but Carson made an NFL type throw for a conversion against Kentucky, and it was a great catch. But we need those types of catches and those types of moments all the time. And I think what Georgia needs right now is that gotta have it guy, the guy that's going to step up in a big moment and make a tough catch or get the extra yards in a run. So would love to kind of hear your take. I mean, I call it the gotta have it guy, right? Or
no,
and just curious.
I'm with you. I just got off a show with Tavares King, and I brought that up too because Tavares is like, we have a bunch of ones, we have a bunch of guys that can go out there and make plays. I was like, yeah, I agree. Like, we do, but I still want to know, not crunch time, nut cutting time, whatever you want to say, who's going to step up and be that guy? Who is going to make the big time play? Who is a quarterback? And I say, how dumb is this defense to let this guy go one-on-one because we're about to get this conversion? I thought it was going to be Lovett based on what we saw in the spring. I'm waiting for him to I still think I think if I had to pick a guy like, okay, who is going to be an emerge? Who do I want to see have that breakout game versus Alabama? To me, it is Dom. I think he's an experienced guy. He's played in the slot going back to his time at Missouri. This is his second year in the offense. Obviously, it was that big breakout game in the spring game. We all got really excited about what his potential could be with Carson Beck. I still think that is the guy that has the potential to be the number one in a group of receivers that are all very similar. I don't think it's really Arian. I don't think it's the tight ends. I don't think it's Colby. I think Colby's very specific in certain situations where you use him. So I think to me, like if there's a guy two guys have to step up, Dom and Etienne. And like Etienne out of the backfield, Etienne running the football. Like if Georgia's going to win, I want it to be because we have a legit top running back who he should be a top running back based on his skill set and Georgia's offensive line. And we have a elite receiver in Dom Lovett because of the skill set and because of the fact that he is a quarterback like Carson Beck that can give him the football. So those two guys to me have to take their game to another level this weekend if Georgia, if Georgia wants to win.
Yeah, Aaron, I think that is really true from that standpoint with ETN because I'm right with you. I think 2 weeks ago, I should say, when he was at Kentucky, he was kind of the player of the game for that offense because there were so many times he was hitting the backfield somehow. When you think of that offensive line and you think of how that Kentucky defensive line played the week prior, it's like, well, we expected a field day. Well, it wasn't, especially blocking standpoint. And he was getting hit behind the line of scrimmage, and he would still get 2 yards somehow. Spin out of 3 tackles and get hard yards like that. Kind of shows you what he could do with some more space there. Once these guys maybe get some cohesion because, Tate Ratledge is out, right? And he's one of the best pass protecting guards in the whole country. He's out. Michael Morris in. We've heard a lot of good things. Aaron, I know you have too about Michael Morris. He's an absolute guard. He's massive, dude. He looks like your typical NFL guard. He wasn't great when he came in, but they did start running the football better, right, to close that game out against Kentucky. A big moment for him. Maybe with 2 weeks prepare, he's even more ready to step in and take that spot for him. Let's move on. I want to hear about this Alabama offense, and I know you've watched Jalen Milroe closely, and watching him this season and doing some extra work getting prepared for this. It's like this offense looks better. I know it's through 3 games, and I know the opponents aren't near what they're going to face when you maybe combine all the SEC games they're going to play. But, I mean, as far as points per game, yards per play, explosives, I mean, they're all better right now. And it looks like Jalen Milroe is very, very comfortable despite a whole staff change, right? And I know he's got Ryan Williams on the outside. This Georgia defensive line. Looks like they're going to get Warren Brinson back, maybe Mykel Williams. How big maybe – what do you think from Jalen Milroe here? Do you think he's improved? Maybe name the few things that he really does well, and then how this defensive line for Georgia – can really get into there and try to stop him, at least contain it.
Well, going back to the offense, I mean, you knew he was going to be better this year. It's a better offensive staff. Like he got a massive upgrade when it came to the schematics of what Alabama's offense was going to be with Kalen DeBoer, just looking at Kalen DeBoer's history of offenses. And then just being a second-year quarterback, the comfort level of that as well, along with an offensive line that is improved from a year ago. You saw Alabama's offensive line get better throughout the season last year. They return a lot of those guys up front. They're a better unit overall. So this is I said at the beginning of the season, Jalen Milroe to me was like my top 2 or 3 Heisman candidate because I expected him to take a jump up. I expected him to put up crazy stats both in the air and on the ground. And you've seen this year, Kalen DeBoer really dive more into using his legs than they did a year ago. Like last year, they were very tentative to run him, at least as much. It was more like, hey, we want to turn you into a passer, sit in the pocket. And you saw like the sacks were out of control, didn't have a ton of really great rushing success because of that. And then this year, I mean, you feel like you turn on the tape, there's like 7 to 10 like quarterback design runs per game or zone reads. Like they are truly embracing the fact that he is an elite athlete. He's the fastest player on the field, and we're going to use that to our advantage. Then you get a heavy box, and you get some one-on-ones on the outside, and you throw the football down the field. So he's improved. I really like the offense. I still think Alabama, to me, just like Georgia, there's some question marks at the receiving position. Yeah, I really like the Ryan Williams kid, don't get me wrong, but it's still maybe it's just crazy to me to think that the best skill player in this game is a kid that should be in high school right now. Of Georgia and Alabama, and then obviously Alabama's tradition over the past decade of elite receiving players. The fact that a 17-year-old is the best guy on the football field is interesting. And then he hasn't faced a defense like Georgia. I know he goes against Alabama every day in practice, but he has not been against in a game situation the coverages and the schemes that Georgia's secondary is going to go out there and present to him. So how fast can he really play? With this being his first time, big time game in a big time atmosphere, I'm interested to see that. But I think for Georgia's defensive line, go back to that part of your question.
Yeah,
I do not want to see what they did last year. I want to see aggressive, get after him. Don't drop 8. Don't let him sit in the pocket, run around, all that stuff. Just get after him, hit him, make him feel uncomfortable, play with your freaking hair on fire. And I think that's probably for both sides of the football. No holding back this game. Bobo, take some shots. Yeah. Defense, bring 5, get after his ass.
What you talking about last year? Were they just scared of the over the top? I mean, because that's what Milroe was so good at last year when we got to that game, right? That it kind of took a while for that offense to develop. But once they got there, it was the shots, right? And it was like almost no intermediate game for him. Were they just kind of scared of that? Which it's crazy to even say that.
No, I don't think they were scared of it because no, I don't think they were scared of the overall shot. I think they just had the mentality of like, we're just going to contain him. Like if we're going to lose this game, it's because we're going to make him into a passer. And like, I get it. Like it somewhat makes sense. But to me, when you watch Alabama, when they struggle the most offensively is when teams are getting after him. They're not sitting back and waiting for him to make a mistake. They're the ones saying, we're going to make you make a mistake because we're going to force you to get the ball out quickly. Something that he does not do good. The intermediate still is not his specialty. And we're not going to let you just sit around the pocket, find the lane, and then take off and run. Because you can have a spy for him all you want, but he's still going to be faster than that spy. Mm-hmm. So you may get him once or twice, but then that third time, it's going to be a 40-yard run. So I just don't trust letting him sit there, pick you apart, or run the football. Just get after his butt. And you got to be disciplined when you do it, obviously, but just make him a little bit more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. To piggyback off what Aaron is saying, right? I think when you have a quarterback like Jalen Milroe, like there are very few guys athletically that can play under center that can be like your gotta have it guy, but can also distribute the football. Right. And I think that's what I mean by that is at any point in time, he can take off and run. Because he's their best running back. He's built like he's built like a freaking linebacker. He can sling that thing. Mm-hmm. Is he going to be a better pro quarterback than Carson? Probably not. But college football is a different beast, right? And I think one thing that's very unique about Jalen is, to Aaron's point, he's developed from a maturity standpoint. And I don't mean like his personality. I just mean as an athlete, as a quarterback. And so like my biggest fear is just his ability to be kind of calm, because there was a couple of times last year he was erratic, but he was so athletic that like that erratic behavior would lead to like a 10 to 15 yard gain, because he would just be like, all right, I'm going to run. Right. But I think he's a little bit more systematic with it. Aaron is 100% right. JC, we talked about this earlier in the week or last week. Kalen DeBoer is an unbelievable offensive mind. Love Tommy Rees. I think Tommy's going to have a great coaching career. Like different levels.
Not the same.
They're not the same. And the thing I think that what Georgia needs to do is exactly what Aaron's saying, is like, if you just sit there and wait for him to beat you, he's going to find ways to beat you. So you might as well go after him, get after his ass, right? And try to like hit him, disrupt him, knock him off his game, because ultimately that's how you disrupt a really athletic quarterback, is you hit him in the mouth, right? Like, when is Lamar Jackson thrown off his game? When you hit him in the mouth. When Johnny Manziel was flustered. Why? He was pressured, couldn't move around because he get hit in the mouth, right? These like explosive college quarterbacks, you have to disrupt their flow early on. And if we just kind of sit there and spy them, like, there's no one on the defense that's going to be as big, as athletic, and as fast, as Aaron said, as Jalen Milroe. So you might as well just get the big uglies up in his face and try to kill him. And then if he scores,
amen.
We do have a first round pick at quarterback. Let's just go shot for shot, right? Like, so that's kind of my.
He's going to get his.
Well.
I mean, he's too good. I mean, at the end of the day, like, Georgia's defense is great. There's no doubt about it. Like JC said, they're getting healthy, and hopefully you get a guy like Michael and Warren back there and create some more depth where guys are able to go 100% over and over and over again. But he is an elite talent. He's one of the most gifted athletes in America, and he's at home. He's going to make plays. You cannot be afraid of him making plays. Like, to think that you're just going to sit, like, he's going to sit back there and make mistake after mistake after mistake, and you're just going to sack him and sack him. You're going to be undisciplined at times. He's going to make you pay. You just got to line back up and get back after him again and again and again and again. But you cannot be the one sitting back and letting him dictate the tempo.
Yeah.
So
Eric,
we'll see what
I think you could even build on that point too, Eric, because I was going to say the same thing, because I'm not saying I've lost any sleep about this, okay? But I have been thinking a lot about, like, what would you do to stop this offense? Especially you add the RPO in there, and there's danger everywhere. It can beat you anyway on almost every play, and they do multiple plays out of the same set, what have you. It is kind of that, is he's going to make plays here and there. He's going to get chunk plays. They're going to have some success. But what does Georgia do when they're playing really well? It is sideline to sideline tackling. It is no yards after the catch, maybe 5, maybe 10 if you get lucky, right? So that's where they excel. And then what does that do? That makes you have to line up and beat them in the red zone. You don't get 40-yard plays. You're off the field, and you get to go sit down and take a drink of Gatorade. No, you got to work for it. Make them work for it. That's what I wrote. I was like, make him absolutely work for it. And then, like you said, already there's nobody on that team that could follow him for 4 quarters as a spy. Maybe if you rotate him every play, I just don't even know how you do that. I mean, Jalen Walker would be he's just playing man possessed. If you can just get him rushing in creative ways beyond just spying like that, it could be even more of a situation where they have to have an answer for that. So that's just going to be, it's going to be an absolute chess match right there, right? Is this Kirby Smart defense, who has never played a Kalen DeBoer offense, versus that DeBoer offense with better talent than he had at Washington. That's just what I'm really looking forward to. Aaron, I know you got to get out here in a second, so let's go ahead and get to your predictions there. If you want to share some kind of keys to the game, I think that'd be great. Maybe a few, and then your score prediction.
Yeah, I mean, I think my key goes back to, I'm looking more on the other side. I think Georgia's offense, to me, needs to impress. I think Georgia's defense is going to have a good plan. I think they're going to go out there and have enough success where Alabama's not going to score, in the mid-30s to 40s. Georgia's offense has to find a way to, like Arthur and I talked about, find those guys. Like, who are those dogs that you're going to be able to count on, not only this week against Alabama, but in Austin, in Oxford, against Tennessee, in an SEC championship game, in a playoff situation. I don't know who that guy is on offense yet. And there's a long season against a lot of really good teams ahead of us. We need to really start finding those guys that you can lean on and kind of go from there. So to me, like that's my big thing. Can Carson really excel? Can he push the ball vertically down the field? Can he just take a couple chances? I mean, like, I've praised Carson for, taking the check down, taking what the defense gives him. I think at times he can be a little bit too conservative. I think this is a game where I want to see him take a couple more risks, push the ball down the field, see if you can create some explosives. And then score prediction, I think Georgia wins 31-21.
Ooh, 10 points. Honestly, I thought you were going to go closer than that, Aaron. You know that this is the first time
Everyone throwing.
in 113 games that Alabama's been an underdog in their home stadium. That is an incredible
What did
amount
Texas
of games.
beat them last year? What did Texas beat them by last year? They beat them by 2 scores, didn't they?
I think that didn't they? Was it like 13?
Yeah, it was
Texas won 34-24, 10.
and it was that game wasn't close. That was more that
No.
was a yeah. I actually think and I'll give my prediction later, but I think it's gonna be a high scoring game. I don't think it's gonna be a defensive struggle at all. I think my boy Carson Beck's gonna cook, and I think Jalen's gonna cook, and I do think there's gonna be dudes. I do think there's gonna be dudes that step up for Georgia. I just don't know who, but someone's got to. To your point, Aaron.
Yeah,
I agree.
And this game would be much different. We were talking with Nick Saban on the other sideline just because of the track record Kirby Smart has. But, Kirby Smart has lost to just 5 SEC games to active head coaches right now. They're all at different schools, and 4 of those losses came in 2016, his first season. So losing to anybody else other than Saban, it just hasn't happened. Will it happen this week? And that's the craziest part of this storyline. I know we're missing Saban, but nobody's done it yet. You still got to beat that Georgia team and Kirby Smart, even if they're coming to your home stadium.
Amen to that one. So,
awesome.
Be a fun one, boys.
Aaron,
appreciate y'all having me on.
Aaron,
absolutely,
love
man.
you, brother. As always, tell Sharon I said hello. Kiss the kids for me.
You,
I hope
appreciate
I see you soon.
Stay safe, my brother. Stay safe in the storm, JC.
Hey, this is right outside the window, but it's not getting me, brothers. It's not getting me. I'm gonna turn on some Sturgill and we're gonna watch Weather Channel.
We know Arthur can't handle the show solo. So if it goes out again.
No, that was embarrassing. I'm actually mad at JC for allowing that to happen. But Aaron, love you, brother.
Unbelievable. Love you, brother.
Thanks,
see you, boys.
See it. And we're back to 2. Oh, there we go. Hey, yo, I think that was a good learning moment for you guys. If you're just joining us on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever you're watching, or if you're listening, you can rewind it back to the beginning. I really hesitate to say that because it was just a cluster mess up. But my mic went out again. Poor audio quality. Don't know what StreamYard's doing. But Artie had to take over the show. Mr. President had to take over the show while I was trying to figure that out. And I think he did okay. He hates it. Maybe y'all should drop some comments and review it, see what you think.
It wasn't my best showing. What are you gonna say? What are you gonna do?
Hey, I put you right in that moment. I mean, it was that's hard for anybody. That is tough for everybody.
All good.
It happened to me.
We're all right.
We were after the Kentucky game. I'm doing it's like midnight plus. I don't even know what time it is. I am gassed. I've covered for Athlon college football all day and had that kind of game for Georgia, right? And then I get on here solo and my mic does that like 2 times. And I'm just having to what are we doing here? I'm like, why would people even want to join in right now? I can't even get my mic working. But they did, and we had a good show. And we processed it together. Alrighty. Keys to the game from you. We got Aaron's. I like his points. Makes a lot of sense. You can tell he's played football at a high level. What say you as far as maybe a couple keys here and there? They could be the same. They could be different for Georgia to get a win here on the road, 7:30 kick in Tuscaloosa. It's going to be a madhouse.
Yeah, I think we got to set the tempo early. I think and what I mean by that is if we get the ball right away, right, I think we try to take some shots early. And I think we try to get in that rhythm. You and I discussed this last week. I think it was last week. The days run together at this point. But it's, people can crush Bobo. They can get mad at Beck. Sometimes you just don't have it. And it's when when your offense doesn't have it, you're supposed to have a strong offense. Your defense picks you up, and vice versa. The fact of the matter is, they won a tough game on the road against an SEC opponent. We're moving on, but I do think against a great team like Alabama, and I do think Alabama is a great team. So I think they have great talent. I think they're very well coached. You can't have as many of those mistakes, right, or those lulls. So I think it's imperative for the offense to gain momentum early. I'm not saying we have to score in the first play, right? I'm not saying that we have to put up 55 points and shut them out. But I think we need to move the ball early in the game, up and down the field, right? Kind of wear down that defense and try to capitalize where we can, right? If you drive 80 yards, you don't get a field goal, totally okay, right? Because I do think when you're playing on the road against a very good football team, it's not about like scoring every time you have the ball, but it's about like gaining momentum and giving confidence to the guys on your offense who may have a little doubt creeping into their mind from the previous game. I know Carson Beck doesn't have any doubt because he's played a lot of football at a very high level and has won really big games. But I still think there are guys who we need to step up on a weekly basis that there may be some doubt creeping in, right? And we need to get the ball in those guys' hands to get that confidence up so we can move the ball up and down the field. Defensively, I agree with Aaron 100%. We have to attack Jalen Milroe, right? If we sit there and try to contain him, you cannot contain him, right? When you have an elite athlete under center who can make plays with his feet, with his arms, and is also tough as hell, like you can't contain that. You got to try to attack him because the moment you contain it is the moment he gets these big plays, explosive plays, and that's how you get beat on when you're playing on the road because all the momentum is going to be in their favor naturally because of the home crowd, because these teams are going to be juiced up because let's face it, Georgia has won more national championships in recent history than Alabama has, right? That's just a fact. And so I think when you think about where like Alabama's the underdog, right? Like Kalen DeBoer's the underdog, right? And I think that is a storyline and a narrative that Kalen DeBoer is putting in his team's mind all the past 2 weeks, right? And that stuff is fuel, man, right? When you're on a team and you're like, wait a minute, Georgia's the big dogs now, right? We're the underdogs. Like that stuff can work in your favor if you're Alabama. So I think Kirby does a great job of tempering those expectations and the rat poison. I get it, right? But I think the keys to this game is the offense getting in a rhythm early on. Don't have to score right away, but to be able to give confidence to those younger players, for those gotta have it guys that need to be woken up a little bit. And then I think defensively, get after Jalen's ass. I'd rather blitz the house and have Jalen beat us over the top, or like make a ridiculous run and break 5 tackles, than us play passive and spy him, and then Jalen have all day in the world, or you know what I mean? Like I'd rather risk it for the biscuit than just sit there and playing soft and scared, which I don't think we'll do, but I think we may have done in the past with guys like Jalen. Yeah. Sorry, I was rambling, but that's kind of where my head's at.
No, it makes sense. What do you think is score-wise? We can go ahead and get to it.
Oh, I think it's gonna be a shootout. I think it's gonna be like a 41-38 game, and I think Georgia wins.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Dude, I think what was the last game like that was Ohio State in Georgia,
yeah.
right?
No, I think it's gonna be very similar. I think you have two impact players under center. And the thing about and this is what I try to tell people and Georgia fans who are like, oh, we don't have a Brock Bowers, or we don't have an AJ Green. It's like, yes, we do. What I mean by that is we have so much offensive talent and NFL caliber talent across the roster, as does Alabama, because that's what happens when you have these two recruiting juggernauts. It's like Ohio State. It's like everyone's like, who's this new wide receiver for Ohio State? Doesn't matter. It's it's the 4 and 5 stars they've been piling up over years, right? Georgia's no different. It's like the rich get richer in college football when you're a top tier program like this. So what that tells me is it's unlimited potential or untapped potential that has not been met quite yet from a mental capacity. And I don't mean IQ wise. I just mean there's a little psyche thing that needs to turn in these guys' heads, right? And when it does, that's when things get unlocked and that potential is met. And all of a sudden you got impact players across the board. And I think in games like today, I think Ryan Williams, he's just supposed to be in high school. In his mind, he's like, I'm a third-year All-American about to be a first round pick. I guarantee you that's how his mind is wired. We need guys on the Georgia's offensive side of the ball who are equally as talented as Ryan Williams to turn that psyche on. And I think I think it's going to be a shootout, because I do think a guy like Etienne is going to meet the moment, right? I think Dom is going to meet the moment. I do think the tight ends will make some plays. And at the end of the day, folks, we have a very, very, very talented quarterback who, if he gets in a groove, man, he'll be blacked out. And what I mean by that is like he'll be so in the zone that he's just making these throws as if it's in his sleep. You know what I mean? And I think that's going to be something that we can look forward to. But I don't necessarily think it's going to be a 2017 game or 28. No, I think it's going to be 41-38. Dogs win, and it's going to go down the wire. And I think this is where we're going to see a couple guys step up for Georgia, hopefully maintain that excellence through the season.
I agree with you in a couple areas. I agree with you that it's going to come down the wire. I think you look back at the history of this game in the recent years, that's how it's going to play out. It's the safest bet. I also think that Georgia's going to have some guys step up. I know that Oscar Delp's been playing banged up. I think he's healthier going into this game. Use him. He's, pushing 6'5", 250. That is a hard matchup to take on in single coverage. Use him. I'd love to see that. Now, when you think about how this game is going to start, and I wrote this out too already earlier, just getting my thoughts out because that has been such a big narrative I've heard from the fan base, is the start. And we were so consumed with the start. It's a long game. So I'm thinking about, the fans want to see Carson Beck line up in the gun, maybe empty, and throw an 80-yard bomb to Arian Smith. They want to see chunk plays like that early. I don't think it's going to happen like that. I think you could sit here and talk for 30 minutes of why that's not going to happen against this Alabama defense. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, hold on, I'm going to mute this. Artie's getting arrested, I think. There we go. I think the issue here is for the Georgia fans, they want to see a fast start, but I don't think it's scoring. I don't think it's chunk plays. I think it's actually more momentum like that, as in first downs. Just get some first downs, right? Leave Jalen Milroe standing on the sideline over there. Leave that offense standing on the sideline over there. Get some momentum that way. Start pushing against the defensive front. Start wearing them down. That's what you need in the fourth quarter. If you're up, you want to run the ball, right? If you're down within, it'd be 3 points, a little bit more. You want to run the ball. Use the clock to your advantage, right? You have to be able to do that, and you have to start wearing down that defensive line early. So I love what you say about the momentum. I think that's huge, and I don't think it necessarily means points. It means field position, because I see this as a close game. I see it as a lower than you scoring, not a low scoring. We're not talking Iowa, Minnesota here, but I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, and I think the defenses will dominate at times in this game. I don't think the whole game. I see chunk plays. I think these guys do go on long drives on both sides of the ball. But ultimately, I do love the defenses both here. The talent, especially up front for Alabama. There is a lot of youth in this secondary for Alabama that can be exploited. Carson Beck passes against a better secondary in practice every day. Now, defense as a whole, you can add, you can argue about talent all you want, but that secondary is Georgia. Prove it. Carson Beck proved that. Prove that on the field that you dice these guys up in practice, do it in the game. I know it's not on one guy's shoulders at all. We've already talked about it at length today about the receivers that need to step up and the other weapons that need to step up. You do that, and I think you set yourself up as far as momentum, making chunk plays, making big third down catches, and that leads me into my biggest key of the game, which is third down for Georgia. Mike Bobo, Carson Beck, that offense, 39% through three games. And one of those, you put 34 points up on the board, and the other was Tennessee Tech, right? And then Kentucky last week. That number shouldn't be near there. Despite you can have one bad game against Kentucky, that number shouldn't be that way. That's like 13 to 33. 55% last season. Georgia was one of the top in the country in third down percentage. Considering how big this game is, how talented the other team is, this is like an NFL game, right? As far as talent, coaching from all sides, this is the highest level of college football we have. Third down is so important. And red zone, Georgia has been good in the red zone. They were good in the red zone last year. They got Peyton Woodring. They have Brett Thorson, who is one of the best punters in the country that you never see. You don't want to see him much in this game, but I think when you do, it's not a huge deal unless you're down 30 points, which I don't think Georgia will be. They can flip the field. So I'm pleased, Artie. I know we want to see points, but I'm pleased with a little bit of momentum. I don't need 30 points on the board in the first half. I need momentum. Keep Milroe on the sideline. Let the Georgia defense heal up a little bit, get their breath, and ready to go out there and chase Milroe around. because I think that proves to be when you get that defense rolling for Georgia and then that special teams, Peyton Woodring and Brett Thorson, you can control the clock, the field position, and really control this game overall to set yourself up for a great opportunity in the fourth to close it all out. So I see this one. I think Georgia does cover this game. It's a 2-point line, right? And we already mentioned Alabama has not been a home dog in like 113 games, which is incredible. But Nick Saban ain't on that sideline anymore, right? He's in his own office in Bryant-Denny. I think Georgia covers this too. I like 28-24. Like Milroe and company make some plays, but Carson controls the game. Not only makes plays, but controls the game. So that's how I see this one. Obviously, the over hits for me as well. That's 48.5. Already, it definitely does for you. You've got a shootout. So that's what I like. Bama's also 59-2 at home since 2015. The two that they lost to already, Joe Burrow, Quinn Ewers. Now, those two teams that beat him at home just happen to be, one is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and the other might be one day. He is one of the best.
Did Jordan Jefferson not beat them at home?
I don't. I read the stat. I copy and pasted the stat. I'm not sure about that one.
Game of the century.
Well, that might. Well, that's 59-2. I mean, how many seasons is that? That could have been before that, right?
Alabama. Oh, I'll look at this up, dude.
I think it's probably before that than the scope of the stat. Yeah, 113 straight games, and it was Burrow and Ewers. Was it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so LSU 9, Alabama 6 at Alabama.
When was that? Was that 2010?
2011.
2011. Yeah, that was before this stat. It must be, right?
I don't know.
I don't know. Either they messed it up. Anyways, okay, Carson Beck is that level of quarterback. We had that track record last year. He's built on it at times. You've seen it at times this year. He's not one bad game. Let's see what happens against Alabama. Now, Artie, we'll get out of here with our pick'em. You are up 12-8. We got 10-10 for me. It's been a tough start, brother. Oklahoma State at Kansas State. We got Kansas State getting 5 points. Now, both of these teams just absolutely got railroaded at home last week. This is a tough game. I'm going to go with the home team because of that. We said Oklahoma State, they could play, like the level of the top teams in college football one week, and the next week they play, like their Grambling State. Yeah, like Kansas State. Who you got?
Are you froze up there?
Sorry,
you cut out. Who do I? What's the spread?
Oh, this is tragic. This hurricane.
You're good, man. What's up?
She
Just give me the game.
She does not like Wi-Fi. Oklahoma State at Kansas State.
Kansas State.
Moving on. Louisville to cover 5. Yeah, I like them to cover. Louisville at Notre Dame. Notre Dame's getting 7 points here. Louisville beat Notre Dame by 13 last year at home, though.
Notre Dame will cover. Notre Dame will cover.
Oh, all right. I like the home team to win. I like Notre Dame to win. I think Louisville covers. Notre Dame has no offense whatsoever. Louisville does. Pretty similar.
Wait, you're saying Notre Dame is favored by 7?
I am.
Oh, then Louisville will cover that game.
Okay. We're on the same page so far. Oklahoma getting 2 points at Auburn. Now, that line should tell you a lot, Artie, because Auburn leads the country in interceptions and turnovers combined. They absolutely had it.
Oklahoma's a mess, though.
They kind of are. Now, that defense played really well. I was really impressed with that defense. I really was.
Still.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I'll take Oklahoma. Okay.
Oklahoma -2. I think this is one of those games that Auburn just wins. I don't – no rhyme or reason. They just win this. It is at Jordan-Hare. It's Oklahoma's first SEC road game. I'm going to take Auburn. I just have a weird feeling about this game. Arkansas at Texas A&M. Got 4 points for the Aggies here. Backup quarterback is playing better than Connor Weigman did. That's really interesting. Arkansas has really given people a run for their money this year so far. This is a really tough road game, though, at Texas A&M. Artie, I like the road dog. I like the road dog. Give me Arkansas.
I like A&M.
A&M. And last one here, Mr. President, and we really appreciate you, giving us your time and dressing up for us here at UGA Football Live. Illinois at Penn State. This is really interesting, right? Because Illinois is 4-0, didn't make a bowl last year. 4-0, got 2 ranked wins. Beat Kansas, beat Nebraska. They're at Penn State, who hasn't played a soul except West Virginia, who that team is not near what we thought it was going to be this year. They're getting 19.5 points, which is just a crazy line to me. I'm taking Illinois all day.
I like Illinois too. I like Brett Bielema, but like at the same time, they were 7-0 like 2 years ago, and then ended up like 7-5. So it's like at some point they're going to collapse. But Penn State's been a little bit inconsistent. Tons of talent, but inconsistent this year. Yeah, I like Illinois. Illinois is it at Penn State?
It is at Penn State. It is a wideout, but Illinois has a good defense. It's kind of like an offensive.
Yeah, but my only worry is that Illinois had a big win last week in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like possible. No, let me take Illinois. I'll go Illinois. I'm with you.
Trust your gut, baby. Trust your gut. Defense travels, folks. Defense travels. Not as far as Hurricane Helena, but defense travels. Absolutely. All right, Artie. We appreciate your time. Huge
Always,
game
brother.
On Saturday in Tuscaloosa. The weather should be good there from all reports, unlike here in Atlanta. Artie has an absolute shootout in this one. I have a 28-24 finish. I think we both have Georgia winning and covering here. We are 2-1 calling the Georgia by the spread this year. So far, we'll hope another one in the win column for you guys. We'll absolutely be live after the game. It's going to be a late one. No matter what happens, I'll be on here talking to this little camera right here on top of my laptop after the game, and we'll talk about it. So check that out, Facebook, Twitter, if you prefer, or YouTube, or listen wherever you get your podcast. Big one on Saturday night, and we'll see you shortly after.
All right, guys. Take care. Go Dogs.